In the meantime, you're seeing a major shift here in where people are buying their coffee. Hey everyone, in today's video, we're going to look at 10 stocks, long and short, to look for the month of April. First one we're going to start with is going to be BPT. Now, we're all familiar with this name. If you've been following the channel for some time, we've been playing around with this one since about $4.80. It's still setting up and it's still a very attractive stock, and we're going to get into why. As always, subscribe to this channel, click all notifications, because what we go over here is timely. And when you click all notifications, you get access to the community, which gives you private videos that come out about daily. See right here, we broke out and kind of pulled back. That's not really what I was looking for, but this level has been resistance for some time, and we're finally breaking out. For those of you that don't remember, this holds a royalty interest of roughly 16.5% for all crude oil that comes out of this bay in Alaska. Obviously, with oil prices rising, that dividend is going to be more and more. When it stays flat, even when oil stays flat, you're still in a position where the dividend is going to be more and more. Last dividend was $1. I would expect this one to be more. If we take a look at the monthly, I keep trying to hammer this home. This is when the Iraq invasion happened. You had a massive power dynamic that shifted. You're undergoing the same exact scenario here, where you're seeing Russia formulate stronger ties with China and India, very similar to what we had happen back here, but more geared in the Middle East. These power structures, they change the way that oil prices go up. And they can actually go up substantially higher than you think that they can based upon this. That alone, but even if oil stays here, I expect this to go higher. This has the potential over time to be back in the 30s. So I like the idea. I would say that you should be looking at it. Now, we're going to talk about this a little differently today. We're going to talk about these for the month of April. So areas that you should look at. First and foremost, this would be major support right now. If you got over this level, I would suggest this 1675 level. You might just want to put it risk on. But watch when you get to these 20, like the 21 day. I use simple moving averages. You use what you want, but I just like the simple moving averages. But if you can get back down to the 50 day or the 21 day, these are both points of interest that you should look at. But overall, I think in the next 12 to 18 months, this can be back to that 35 range. Now, not all of these are going to be longs, which if you've been following me for some time will not surprise you. But if we take a focus on what's going on here, we have Netflix. Now, Netflix has had some losing of subscribers and they've had some negative growth. This was the last quarter, and it was the first quarter where we actually really had the single largest slowdown we've had in a very long time. They're not the only ones that are dealing with it, right? We're also seeing this with Disney. If you sit there and you throw in the earnings when Disney was coming out with their subscriber rates, it has not been great. So less people seem to be cutting the cord. I'm not sure if they're watching YouTube or what they're doing, but they're certainly not running to Netflix. And even myself the other day, I noticed when I had free time, which is rare, I logged on there and really couldn't find anything worthwhile. So if you have something worthwhile that I have to watch, do me a favor, throw it in the comments. It would help me, because I really can't find a new series. So see how you're holding this 50 day? Whenever you rejected a 50-day moving average, you need to pay attention to it. Now, today in the trading room, someone posted an article, which I thought was interesting, where they're telling their employees to watch expenses, and they're telling them to look at hiring and be a little more particular about who they're hiring. Now, this means to me, they are trying to cut costs because they're coming into earnings, which is April 19th. I've seen this story several times. The most egregious was in 2000 with a company called WorldCom, where they literally pulled the water coolers out of the offices to save money. Needless to say, the stock went to zero. But what you're seeing here is, as you can see this rejection, that means as you're getting there, institutions are selling, right? So now you're wedged in on this line. So real simple, if you want to short this, you can short it and just use this 50-day and a close above the 50-day as your stop. If you do that, you're at 382.39. You can also look at options if you're more inclined. My goal is to short this, be in the short, stay in it, hopefully get back down to here, down to this level, so I could possibly hedge it around 330 before earnings and see if I can capture something like this. That's what I'm trying to do there. Now, there are themes today. One of the themes that we're going to be talking about is coffee, which everyone knows that I love coffee. But you're seeing a major shift. And 3 of the stocks today are going to be in that space. And we're going to talk about this. So this is something that could have gone public and with a little more fanfare. You can see the $10 range, which basically might as well be a a SPAC when you look at it, just knowing that it's at $10. But this is Black Rifle Coffee. They're based in the US. It's run by veterans. It's a really solid company the way that it's run. But more importantly for us is we want to look at the profits and what's coming in. Now, this was first quarter. Okay. Eventually, you're going to have the next quarter that's coming up, right? But you don't have that till May. In the meantime, you're seeing a major shift here in where people are buying their coffee. You're seeing it more being done online. You're seeing it more being done through social media. It's changed drastically since the days of going into Starbucks. I still go into Starbucks and love it, but it's changing drastically, and people are looking for the next big thing. And as someone that drinks coffee, their coffee is awesome. But you see these 2 wicks? We closed over these 2 wicks today. Now, you can enter here and use this as $22. If you pull back to this 21, I would use that as well. Also, if you clear this, there is nothing above but blue skies. All you have above you are blue skies. These are the kinds of stocks you need to be watching right now. Stocks that in this kind of environment are running no matter what's happening. And this is one of them. This is just breaking out and pushing higher. So they're the levels that I would watch. But if you break this 2280 and you count from the depth, if you just want to think about your move from just the depth perspective, you're going to come from this level at 2280 and you'd come to here and say, okay, well, that's 27%. Well, based upon that, you can reverse this and say that we could get up to 27%. And that puts us where exactly? And that puts us roughly around $29. So I like this one, but it's not the only one that I'm looking at. This one has been extremely disappointing, bros. And the question is, well, why? Well, it's been disappointing because every time it breaks out, it lures us in only to smash our hopes and dreams. And you can see it did it right here where we broke out, right? And then we don't close, broke out again. This time we're really going to go, not really. And then it does this. But what we are doing, if you notice, is we're starting to shift. And what do I mean? So in other words, with bros, you're starting to shift up. And as that shift happens, you're starting to see signs of that. So now you have this right here, 59.71, and we can see how that has become resistance, rarely closing above it. But if you know your candlestick patterns, and I'll link the candlestick video at the end of this, you can see here very clearly you had an evening star and you completed that evening star, followed by what? A morning star, doji, right off the 21 day. So we are seeing a couple key signs here that maybe the tide is turning and maybe things are getting better for this coffee maker. We are starting to see a line right here. I would say that if we could clone this, which we actually can clone this, and just see if there's something where we could see kind of a setup in here. It's kind of sitting right there, a little bit off of this close, a little bit off of this open, and right where that peak is, right? You always want to clone them so you have the same trajectory. Flip this, and that could be one of your entries. That would be one that I would look at 57 3/4. If you break the 50-day, you do not want to be in it. If you close below the 21, maybe you become a little more apprehensive before getting into it. But if you can clear this and then try to push and see if you can get through this upper channel, that might be something in a way to enter it. But I would not be surprised to see this consistently move up now. We are seeing people look for more alternatives besides Starbucks, and this is one of them. To get a more vivid picture, we can just look at the weekly. Now, if we take a look at this on the weekly and we just click off all the indicators, you just can kind of look at where some of the peaks are and where you've had some issues. So $62 has been something that we have not been able to close above. So when you see a close on the weekly above $62, that's going to be something that's going to be important to us, and we're going to want to pay attention to that. Now, the flip side of this is exactly what's happening at Starbucks. We all know one thing. We all know where institutions buy and sell. Now look at what's going on here right now. So we have several things that are going against. One, they've gotten to a point where it's very corporate. So you have this really very corporate structure, and we're starting to see people get away from that with their coffee taste. People are getting away from the $9 coffee drink because of inflation, and they're looking for alternatives. Well, what better alternative than something that comes directly to your house? And that's where you're starting to see these other brands pop up just a little bit more. Now they still have retail aspects to them, but not at the magnitude that Starbucks has. And Starbucks has other issues. Some of the other issues are the fact that they're in a position where they're dealing with unions. People want to unionize there now. Okay? These are some of the issues that Dutch Brothers and Black Rifle are not dealing with, because they pay their labor a lot more already out of the rip, and their cost structure is a lot lower because they don't have the corporate structure that Starbucks has. So that is becoming a huge advantage here in allowing them to be a little more nimble. See how you're unable to break above that level? That makes this almost a perfect short right here, because you have this level, you have this wedge line right here that you can see, right? So when you break that wedge line, you have the potential to get back down to here. We know when we break upper channels, we can always come back down here and test. Very simply, all you have to do is just use the high of this bar, which is 92 3/4 as your stop. So if you just take out this lower low, 90.5, you could use that and you could look at this as a short. If you want to see how they're doing, this was last quarter's earnings and it dropped. This was the quarter before that and it dropped. See the pattern? Over and over again, right? It cannot get up. So these kinds of companies, these more of these legacy types of companies, we're starting to see people tire of them. We're starting to see people tire of these brands, and they're looking for the new thing. So I don't know what they're going to do here, how they're going to come up with a fresh face. But between here and here, I would say that if you're interested in shorting and you can get ahead of it before the earnings, which is this month, you could probably make about 17, 18% on the trade, which I think is worth your time. Now, some of the other sectors that we're seeing that look great for the month, Lithium Americas. Okay, so we all know Lithium. This is a Canadian-based company that focuses on advancing 2 lithium projects, one in Nevada, the other in Argentina. So this is very important, obviously, for what? EVs. We're really paying attention to this. Raw materials are going up in value. And you can see, since we have been going through what we're going through, you can see the rise of what we're going through. Geopolitical uncertainty, such as what we're dealing with, is going to make all nation states really rally around getting basic materials. And we're going to see a couple more of these in the list. Now, you want to watch this 41.17 level. This volume is substantial. Always look at your volume, but look at it from a relative volume standpoint when you want to get involved in something. Because even if it pops up, this will reflect exactly how strong that is. Look at this at 470, 465. So you're at a four times average daily volume, which is exactly what you want to see. Now, if you just look at some other kind of key metrics, you can just simply look at the relative strength and see how we're getting to that overbought. What does that mean? Well, you could stay up there for a while. And on top of that, it means that if we break through this, we could actually go parabolic. So I would have my eye on this. I don't think that this is over. I would watch this closely, but I would be focused on this level up here, this 41.17. You could even use 41.5. But let's take a look at this on a weekly. You can see we've been here before, but look at this week. Look at this close. So you closed perfectly on the week. This is why it's so important to look at multiple time frames when you run these. See that level? You could argue that if you can close above 39.10 on a weekly, or you close above 39.10 and you want to take the chance, you could use this as an entry point as well. It's a little aggressive, but you could do that. You could also watch next week and see if you break over this wedge line and then use this wedge line as an entry. So there's a couple different ways to get involved, but I would not participate because that you are up too much on something like this. Something like this can consistently keep moving. If we look at the depth of the move from 41 to 25, let's just call it that you can easily see $55, $60 as a target on something like this. And you would just walk your stop up. In other words, you would just use the low of the previous bar if you're trying to be tight on something like this. That's the best way to utilize a stop. Now, Oxy's one that we're all familiar with and has just absolutely exploded with what's going on. But I want to point out some key metrics here. We've never gotten to this 50-day moving average. Even though you see volume dropping off greatly after this huge move, you don't see massive selling. So again, these are for the month of April. So we're not talking about Monday morning on all these. This one is actually setting up quite nicely. And every single time we get to this 21-day, we see a bounce. So what we're really doing is we're just kind of following what's been going on since December. There was a bounce here at 29. There was another one here. And as we know, basic material, oil, energy, nothing is even coming close to the performance of them. Nothing is even coming close There's no other sectors really. So it becomes a reason for us to focus on. Now, see this wedge line? When you break out of this wedge line right here, that's going to be what you're looking for. To start with, you're really looking for 59.25, a close below the 21 day, and you're probably going to want to be out of it. If you look at this on a monthly, you can see your 200 month moving average right there, and you can see your massive channel right here. Look at this lower trend line. You're getting to a point where this could be really constructive. And if you can get through something like this, right, you're breaking a 12-year lower trend line. That's pretty substantial. If anything's going to do it, this kind of environment is something that could make that happen. And you're seeing it through the volume. I mean, this is huge volume for this over the course of last month. Teck is a Canadian miner of coal, copper, zinc, gold, lead. Basically in Canada, they do it in the US, also Chile and Peru. I'm interested in anything that has to do with basic materials right now, as you can tell, because this hoarding that's going on is not going to stop. We've been talking about this previously, and we talked about it specifically in March. But look at this level and look at that rejection today. So really what we're looking for on the daily is a close above the 42.30. The volume is peeking its head over, but if we can break that 42.30 and close above it, that would be our first tell. The second is getting above the 43.18 or 43.25 level. Now let's just take a look at this on a larger time frame so you can understand this. Okay, so on the weekly, we don't have any resistance whatsoever till back here, right? Then you have this little level that you've held, and then we start going back a little bit further, and we can see where we were in 2011. So we have massive potential. And what you're going to see on this is you're going to see some levels that we should be paying attention to, like 43.37, 54. Let's call it 54. So now you can always just shift to the monthly and look how much cleaner it is. Again, multiple time frames. But if you wanted to know if you put your bottom in, well, this is pretty clear, double bottom, right? So here's your level, your undercut here, here's your W, so this would be the previous high, and you've cleared that previous high. So you could say that, you know, for a secular move over the past 15 years, your double bottom is in. So that can help you here, and that can lead to retesting this level over time, which would be closer to $65. So as the hoarding goes up, what we're seeing is we're seeing demand for food go up. Now, this is a company that's based in Brazil, and they are in food distribution. And what we've been seeing is we've been seeing huge moves in some of these smaller cap names. Now, what we're focused on is this in particular. You can see that this is our line, right? And we use a 20 SMA. And what we're seeing is, look at what's going on here. So in other words, all these dates in here, from here over, every single time we bought, every single time, it's greater than the sells. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So this is under massive accumulation, and that's really what we're looking for. So the fact that we're up a little bit doesn't really concern me. I'm not going to tell you that you need to run into this right now. You can do this a couple ways. You can use this 1687 as your stop and just use this higher high of 1765. That gets you in for $1 of risk. If you're wrong and it breaks this, you're not going to want to be in the trade anyway, quite frankly, because there's too much air below you. But if you look at this, technically getting above this is enormous, 1855. And what I really like about this particular one is it's a new issue. So being a new issue, if we take a look at how we closed in March and we realize that we closed exactly here, since we've closed there, we are now, that is our low, and now we're forming a hammer right up here, and we really only have one other close above this line, which just happens to coincide with this high that we've already gotten above. So this is pretty intriguing to me, and this is something that has massive potential to go a lot higher. Why? There's no overhead resistance. On top of that, you have clearly broken this. So getting above this, and now you have this beautiful monthly cup. So I think this has real potential. And this is one that's going to be on the list. It's thinner, so you're going to have to account for the fact that it's thinner, right? You're going to have to account for that. Look over here and you can see that we only have about, what are we really trading, right? On these peaks, we're talking 200,000-300,000 shares. We're not talking a lot. Now, this is one we've been stalking for some time. Freeport Morgan. I really like the space. Please comment on these videos. It's the reason I'm giving you stops and targets. When you ask questions, I actually respond to every single one of them, and it really makes the videos better for everyone, including me. I don't want to be talking about things that you have literally no interest in. It's kind of pointless. So FCX, but let's look at this on the weekly. Look at this, right? Resistance becomes what? Support, bonk, bonk, holds, breaks out, forms this little, what, hammer? I mean, we can't really call that a dragonfly because it really isn't perfect dragonfly, but you're pretty much there. Let's look at this on a monthly. Okay, and now look at this. So here's my close on the monthly, and where does that put me? Right in the middle of all of this, but we are finally trying to break this major move. You have not come back from this since 2008. Just to put that in perspective, if you think about that. You've been down this low since 2000, or you haven't been up this high since 2008, right? So that puts you in a great position. If you can flip a level like this, we can go parabolic. And we can come back up here and test this high, which is $64. And if anything's going to be able to do it, it's the current environment that we're in. So I really do like this. I don't think that this is anywhere near over. You have a little upper channel right here that you'd have to flip as well, but you could just use this as a higher high, which would be roughly 50, let's just call it 52. And that's going to kind of put you in the same spot as here, which is also 52. So I think you're better off using that, but I would not shy from this space because it's moved so much. I mean, just look at this. Anything in here is just looking like it's going to break out. Now, you don't really have the volume here, and you don't really have the same setup as you do here, but this is Southern Copper Corporation, another copper name. But you can see your levels right here. Came back down, curling, setting up to break out as well. So you're seeing some of the same patterns, right? But on this one, it's a little bit of a difference. So you can see we went over way more than 10 names today. If you have questions on them, please reach out. Let me know. Do me a favor, please support the channel by liking this video. It gets it in front of other people from the algorithm. And remember, any questions, please reach out and put them in the comments below. Thanks. Have a great weekend, everybody. Trade to win.